John Parker Wilson, I hope you've had an amazing week. Welcome into the game in T-Town.
Man, so far so good. We still got one more day, but I'll be honest with you. I do miss coming on with Dixieland Delight playing before. But Leonard Skinner's good, but Dixieland Delight, it's just something special about it, man.
I know. And see, I didn't run through the credentials of Alabama football. I mean, it just –
I know. So good. I love it.
All right, so signing day, when you talk about the University of Alabama, Nick Saban, 8 out of 9 years. This is even hard to even say. 8 out of 9 years, Nick Saban has signed the number one class in all of college football. 8 out of 9 years, Alabama back at that number one spot in recruiting.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to even think about that, and it becomes almost the norm when everybody knows how hard it is. And I know Coach Saban knows more than anybody how hard it is to continue to be able to go out and recruit these kids, to get them to committed to Alabama, to get them on campus, and to continue the number one. Obviously, that has a lot to do with the success on the field, but it's just it's all, Coach Saban and his process, and that's what makes Alabama so special. It's the lifeblood of the program, is being able to go out and recruit those guys, and it's just his ability to connect with an 18-year-old kid and saying, not only am I going to make you a better football player, I think this is the biggest thing that kind of goes unnoticed, is I'm going to make you a better person, a better father in the future. And, me personally, of being around that program and just how something like that and the way that he runs the program really stays with you the rest of your life. So it continues to be number one. We continue to be number one in football and recruiting and everything else. And it's just a testament to the way his work ethic, his process, and everything else. Even with new coaches turning over like they are, to be able to continue to do that, it's John special.
Now, John Parker, I love the quarterbacks. I love the running backs. I love all the skill position guys, okay? You guys are important. Without y'all, we wouldn't have a football team. But I also like a point of emphasis when I talk about 6 defensive linemen and 5 defensive linemen. When you talk about that offensive line defensive line and offensive line class, that was a point of emphasis for Nick Saban. He signed the best defensive line and the best offensive line class. You got to love the big nasties up front.
Hey, I'm with it. I love the skill guys, and I love having good guys to throw to, but unless you have those studs up front, and I'm going to speak from a quarterback here for a second, it can happen. You can't get the ball downfield. You can't do all these elaborate RPOs, running game, the way the quarterbacks, especially now, are moving the pocket. You got to have an extremely good offensive line to be able to execute that game plan. And it starts up front, especially to be able to get through the gauntlet of the schedule, to be able to make it to the SEC championship, the national championship like we did this year. You got to have those guys up front. I mean, offensive line, Jonah Williams, Ross Piercebaker, 2 studs up front. And luckily we've got so many guys coming back. But Quentin Williams, I mean, if you can get these guys that year after year, I mean, we didn't know really Quentin's name before the beginning of the season just because there was so much talent in front of him. But for him to come and really control the defense, to be able to be that leader up front and really wreak havoc on every other offensive scheme, that's what wins. And I think if we look to what happened in the Super Bowl, that's kind of the Patriots' blueprint for success also. Get really good guys up front and then be able to throw the ball downfield, be able to do different things on offense. You can get every skill guy in the country. You can have nothing but 5 stars outside. Don't get the big guys up front. It doesn't translate into yards and to wins. And Coach Saban knows that. I mean, he always has recruited really good guys up front, and they kind of get overlooked sometimes. I understand that, but man, it really is such an important part of the program.
John Parker, I don't want this question to sound cheesy, but I want to ask you this question. Growing up as a legacy player with your mother and your father's connections here, growing up in the great state of Alabama, I want to talk about recruiting because when you have a chance to be recruited by the University of Alabama, can you talk about what that was like to get recruited to the home state, University of Alabama, walking in Bryant-Denny Stadium? You know, you walk into that locker room and that you see that jersey for the first time. It says Wilson right there. And you walk out Bryant-Denny Stadium, they got the lights on. I mean, can you walk us through what's that like to grow up in this state and get recruited to the University of Alabama?
Yeah, I mean, it's really tough to describe because, growing up and wearing Alabama jersey school and being Alabama, it's fourth down in the national championship game and being that kid when you're out, in the backyard, your mom's telling you come in to come to dinner, but you still want to go out there and play football in the backyard. To be able to have the chance to do that, I mean, it's kind of unreal, and it does. You don't really know how special it is when you're young, and now that I'm 10 years removed from the program, and now be able to come back and call the games, it's pretty unbelievable because our program has the tradition unlike any other. Going back to Bear Bryant, now we've got two of the best college coaches of all time at one place. It doesn't happen. It's almost a fairy tale to have that at one place here in Tuscaloosa, and for me to be a part of that with all my family there in Tuscaloosa, it's just so special. And I know even if you're not from Alabama, though, it doesn't take long once you get on campus to realize how special of a place it is. And not even with football, but now we're recruiting kids all over the country for academics and just to come to our school. And they say, if we can just get a kid on campus for a campus tour and let us tell you about our tradition and our history, it doesn't matter if it's from California or New Jersey or Iowa. It's just everybody feels how special place it is. And it's, we're lucky living here in Alabama to be able to experience that week in and week out. And then, like you said, when you walk in the locker room, they've got Thunderstruck playing when you're walking out of the tunnel and you're wearing the jerseys. It's, I'm getting chills just thinking about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and you talk about the states represented. I'll give you this number one signing class, 27 players, 10 different states, including Washington, D.C., Alabama 6, Florida 4, Georgia 3, Maryland 3, Louisiana 2, Mississippi 2, New Jersey 2, Texas 2, Illinois 1, Kentucky 1, and then 1 from Washington, D.C., 27 total prospects. I mean, this is a national brand, and that's not always been the case. Nick Saban has expanded the borders of the Crimson Tide brand.
No doubt. And I think as the game evolves, they'll be able to expand the recruiting. And you said Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, Louisiana, Texas. Hey, they've got really good programs in all those states also. And to be able to go in there, get a kid to say, I'm going to go to Tuscaloosa and represent that school, that's why we've been able to continue to grow and sustain this, or not we, Coach Stave has been able to sustain this for so long because he knows how important it is to expand those borders. And it's awesome for us here that are in Alabama to be able to experience that because, wherever, and everybody does this, wherever you go throughout the country, if you walk around with that script A on your chest or a hat, somebody's saying Roll Tide, it's now a countrywide, a worldwide brand, and just continuing to do it the right way. I think that's one of the things that I'm most proud of is it's. I love the university slogan out where legends are made. It goes for anything that you do at Alabama. It's so nice and so special to be able to say that that's our school. That's the school we pull for. Everybody listening to this is a Bama fan, so it's just so special to be able to say that. And then to reaffirm that every year with these recruiting classes, it just keeps getting better.
Well, and I think the one thing also, because when you have a chance to commit to the University of Alabama, you go back to Hoover, which is, majority Alabama fans. You got a few Auburn guys in there. But when you talk about these different states, there's great colleges in their backyard. And for a guy like Louisiana, LSU right there, his whole entire school was LSU. And he was explaining yesterday, I'm trying to make the best decision for me. And I think it's not just him, but it's all these different out-of-state kids. They're making a decision to go against what's in their community and go, hey, you know what? I trust Nick Saban to prepare me, to develop me better, to prepare me for the next level. And it's difficult in those communities to turn away from the hometown school and go to Tuscaloosa.
Man, you said it. You hit the nail right on the head. And I think it's trust, because if you commit to Coach Saban, you can trust that he is going to do everything that he says he's going to do. I mean, I think about the guys on the team now. Dylan Moses, he went to high school on LSU's campus. And to be able to make – that's an extremely hard decision when you're 18 years old to say, okay, I'm going to leave everything that I've built here and go to Tuscaloosa to do it. But you know if you do it, you have trust in Coach Saban. But not only that, the school, Greg Byrne, everything that's going on, that it's going to be a first-class organization run the right way, whether it's – even if you don't get to go play in the NFL, you get a world-class education. I mean, it's really a win-win, but to be able to have that trust in Coach Saban saying, hey, you know what, I don't know who the defense coordinator is going to be right now or the defense whatever coach, but you can trust me. I'm going to get the best guy for the job this year, next year, in all 4 or 5 years that you're going to be here. I think that's why he continues to do what he does without that, mainstay coordinator. And that's kind of the college game, right? I mean, guys bump around. You get really good talent that become head coaches somewhere else. It's a little different in the NFL because there's only 32 teams, but that's kind of the way the college ball is. But when you got somebody like Coach Saban in there pulling the levers every day, you can trust that whoever he brings in is going to be the best.
We're talking to John Parker Wilson, color analyst for the Alabama Crimson Tide, former Tide quarterback here in Tuscaloosa. Let's take a couple of phone calls. We'll squeeze in. Let's go to Chattanooga. Scotty, good afternoon. You're on with John Parker Wilson.
Hello, Ryan. Hello, John Parker. How are you today?
Scotty, man, I'm doing great. How are you?
And I'm doing pretty good. Just riding around having fun. I do have, a couple of questions. I just want to ask you, what was the mindset after the 2007 season? I guess you guys ended with a loss to La Monroe and then a loss to Auburn, I think. I don't know if there was a game in between those two or not. I can't remember. And then the mindset you had during the offseason and then up to the Georgia game, which would have been the blackout game, all the way to the end of the season where we beat Auburn, I think 38-0, I believe was the final. What transpired during that time?
Sure, good question. I think so that
go ahead. Sorry.
That 2007 season was tough, but we lost a lot of games close. Right, so we lost to Georgia in overtime, obviously losing to Monroe. Auburn, could have beat them. A lot of LSU was another one that we were really close. It finished the season 6-6, so had a lot of those good games where we were in them, but you're losing by 3 or 4 points. It's not fun. For us, I think the turning point was when Coach Saban came in 2007. We had the off-season program, training camp. Was able to go through the whole season, but couldn't finish it in the fourth quarter. We know how important that fourth quarter is now with Coach Cochran there, with Coach Saban really dominating the end of the game. And we weren't finishing the 2007 season. So after the season, go back, we went and basically did that off-season training program again, and were able to beat Colorado in the bowl game. So finish the season 7-6, and really that propelled us into the next year. We could same work ethic that, okay, we think we're getting better. And it wasn't until, I guess, the Georgia game, but for me, when we were able to take that and we started off 2008 against Clemson in the Georgia Dome and really whipped them. And it was the first time since I had been there where we really, as Coach Saban would say, imposed our will on the other team. From that point on, we were like, hey, we think we got something special. We think we're on the verge of things. We had a lot of young guys like Julio, Dante Hightower was a young guy on that team. Mark Ingram, another one. So we had a lot of young guys, but was able to take that and really slingshot into the future. 2008 was kind of the same thing. We took what we learned the year before. We got close. We got really close. We finished 12-0, lost in the SEC championship, and that 2009 team was able to do the same thing the year before, but just take it to the next level. I think that, that's the special thing of being able to build in year in, year out. Obviously, we're at that now. They're at the top, and it's about maintaining and continuing to get better. But back then, it was learning Coach Saban's process and really adapting and figuring out exactly what he wanted.
Great stuff, Scotty. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John. And hey, that was a great season, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Roll Tide.
All right, let me take one more here. Let's go to David. Oh, David. And John Parker, we always like to say this when we have a drop call. That Call Drop, sponsored by Auburn University, au.edu, where they're dropping more things than just footballs. Let's go to Corey in Trustville. Corey, you're on with John Parker Wilson.
Hey, John Parker, how you doing this afternoon?
Corey, man, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I just wanted to ask you this: if you were able to go into that locker room after the Clemson loss, what would you tell them players? Because you experienced pretty much the same thing after the SEC championship game and the Sugar Bowl, a defeat that pretty much somewhat lingered over to the off season, and these guys are going to have to sit on it the whole off season. If you could go into that locker room, or even in the off season, what would you tell them players to help motivate them so they wouldn't have to experience that same defeat again?
Thank you, Corey.
Yeah, Corey. Look, it's tough. It's not fun to lose any game, especially the last one, right? And that hurts more than anything because you can't avenge that loss the next week. So the good thing about football is every week you get another opponent, and if you don't play good or you lose a game, you can go out there and beat them the next week. In the season, though, that's the thing that kind of grinds at you. But that's kind of like what life is, right? You're not going to win every game. You can have the perfect season leading up to that and do a couple things wrong and then run into a really good team. I mean, you're going to face other good opponents, and Clemson's obviously got a good program also. But no matter what the outcome is, you got to continue to do the things that got you there because we had a really good season, but then learn from your losses and build on it because you learn so much when you lose. So you either got two options. You can either go back and pout about it and say, we should have won this, or the referees didn't help us out, or make excuses for anything. And I know what Coach Saban and Cochran and all those guys are saying is we got to figure out a way to get better. Doesn't matter what the situation is or how good of the season was, because if we did win that game, this would be one of the best seasons of all time. So you got to continue to build and continue to get better no matter what the situation, whether it's football, whether it's life, whether it's anything. Just continue to try to get better, try to sharpen the sword, and keep the needle pointing upwards.
Not able to get to all the phone calls today. We'll do this again next week. Let's talk about Tuscaloosa Toyota right there on Skyline Boulevard.
Man, I tell you what, we talk about being good, being a good program, being sustainable. Tuscaloosa Toyota, one price, one place. You get their best price first. There's no back and forth haggling. They give you a 3-day exchange program. So you might think you have your eye on this one vehicle and this best one. New or used, you can go back and get the car that you exactly like no matter what. And they've got non-commissioned sales pros. So they're not trying to put you in the most high-dollar car. They're trying to get you the best fit for you, for your family. I shop there. My family shops there. I've got cousins, uncles. My dad's been there. I really, we talked about trust a couple of times. Trust those guys. Scott Peoples, Jeff Baker. They're as good as they get. Check them out, tuscaloosa.youtube.com. They've got a great online website where you can just check on your phone, whatever you got. They've got all the inventory right there. A lot of cars right now, like you said, Ryan, are 0% financing. That's as good as it gets. So check them out at tuscaloosa.toyota.com.
The color analyst for the Alabama Crimson Tide, former quarterback here in Tuscaloosa under Nick Saban at the University of Alabama. John Parker, have a great weekend, my friend. Thank you so much for being a part of the show.
You too. Roll Tide.